And the one thing I'll say is they kept saying about what I said right after the insurrection.
Right after the insurrection. Amidst the aircraft noise over Mar-a-Lago was a stunning Trump reversal about January 6th, followed by a blatant lie.
Because I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi.
This was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi. That's an insane statement. Like, that's beyond, fact check false. That is completely deranged. This was a mob of pro-Trump supporters called to town, urged to be wild by Trump himself. Nancy Pelosi tried to protect the Capitol, tried to summon National Guard troops. Completely just absolute bonkers nonsense.
Nonsense about Nancy Pelosi. Still, the Trump admission that January 6th was an insurrection contradicts his own longtime defense.
Now you look at the so-called word insurrection, January 6th. What a lot of crap. What a lot of crap.
The admission
Right after the insurrection
also undercuts Trump's defenders.
And anyone that puts the word insurrectionist, calls President Trump an insurrectionist, and calls any of us an insurrectionist is a liar, and you do not deserve the power that you possess. Shame on you. Shame on you.
because I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi.
Accuse many of us of waging an insurrection, and you're doing nothing but lying and selling the lies of the Democrats.
But the riot, and it was not an insurrection, gave the Democrats the perfect cover.
It was a political protest that at times became violent and morphed, unfortunately, into a riot. But it was not an insurrection. That is a lie, and they know it's a lie.
What I said right after the insurrection.
Moments later, Trump tried to correct himself. Sort of.
This was an insurrection, if it was an insurrection, which there were no guns, there were no anything except for the fact that they shot Ashley Babbitt. Somebody from police force shot Ashley Babbitt. So unnecessary, so sad, so horrible. But there were no guns, there were no anything.
There were no guns, there were no anything. Like mace, bear spray, chemical irritants, wood planks waved like baseball bats, flagpoles swung at police officers. Actually, there was all of that. And as the January 6th Special Select Committee found, law enforcement did confiscate guns. Now, it's not surprising that Donald Trump would lie about January the 6th, but it is interesting that he admitted, albeit briefly, part of the truth that the rally did turn into an insurrection. And it does suggest that Trump is suffering some cognitive decline. Because whereas Trump used to lie consistently, now he seems to be forgetting his own whoppers and is occasionally admitting the truth. Here's another truth. As the U.S. Supreme Court considers whether Trump's encouragement of the insurrection should disqualify him from the election ballot, let's move beyond the law and the 14th Amendment for a second and think about the politics. If this was a Democrat who inspired his or her most fervent supporters to storm the Capitol, would our nation tolerate that Democrat running for president?
Can we just be honest here? If Barack Obama had sent 10,000 Black Lives Matter protesters to destroy a joint session of Congress, he wouldn't be in jail. He'd be at Guantanamo, and nobody would be talking about him being president. If Rashida Tlaib sent 10,000 Muslims to tear up Congress during the middle of the joint session of Congress, she'd be at Guantanamo, and nobody would even blink to say she's not qualified to be president. There's something crazy going on where we act like something that happened didn't happen, and it has no relevance to what's going on today. If there's ever been a president who took the oath of office and threw it in the garbage can, it was Donald Trump in the middle of that insurrection. If you're going to say you're a constitutional conservative, then show it today and stick up for the Constitution.
And that means keeping Trump off the ballot for violating the 14th Amendment, and keeping Arnold Schwarzenegger off the presidential ballot because he wasn't born in the United States, and keeping AOC off the presidential ballot because she's not yet 35 years old. It is amazing how many Americans have forgotten that we live in a constitutional democracy and that adhering to the Constitution is what keeps our nation going. Unfortunately, we've reached the point where a major U.S. political party is only loyal to one deranged fascist authoritarian. And if supporting Donald Trump means trampling on the Constitution, well, much of the Republican Party seems fine with that. Here is the latest from the anti-Trump Lincoln Project.
What is a failed coup? Is it a loss? A defeat? A victory for the good guys? What happens to those who perpetrated the coup? Are there consequences? Or do they remain in power? And if they do, when are we safe? What will stop them next time?
Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Not America, not you.
A failed coup with no consequences is just a training exercise for the next attack.
I am your voice. I am your warrior. I am your justice. I am your retribution.
And make no mistake, they're going to try again. Unless you stop them.
If another January 6th isn't frightening enough, consider the paralysis the Republican Party has already inflicted on congressional efforts to tackle pressing problems. For months, Senate Republicans and Democrats have been working together on an immigration reform bill and border security measure that includes money for foreign aid. As David Brooks wrote in the New York Times, Republicans got most of their long-term priorities while Democrats got almost none of theirs. By any honest reckoning, this is the most restrictive migrant legislation in decades. The Wall Street Journal editorial board noted, this is almost entirely a border security bill, and its provisions include longtime GOP priorities that the party's restrictionists could never have passed only a few months ago. And yet Republican after Republican came out against the package, arguing that it doesn't have absolutely everything they want. They have adopted the Trumpian logic that under him, they will never have to compromise. The dictator will issue commands, and everything Republicans want will just happen. Meanwhile, Republican James Langford, who conducted a lavishly successful negotiation, is being savaged on the right side of the internet for being a weak-willed compromiser. In the GOP, it is Trump over bipartisan policy improvements, Trump over the Constitution, and Trump over the truth. It is beyond disturbing. By the way, the Lincoln Project ads seem to keep getting under Donald Trump's skin.
First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives. Third, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. Fourth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives. Fifth, we will move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp.
The ad ends with, we've heard the kind of promises Donald Trump is making before, but last time they were in German. Brutal. Friends of Trump say that ad especially infuriated him, in part because Trump, on his father's side, has German roots. For years, Donald Trump denied the German ancestry, largely because of the American public's association with Nazism. So the link between Nazi Germany and Donald Trump's rhetoric hits him in a place where Trump has long been sensitive. Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube, including this popular one from Rusty Angel 4745. Thanks to the Lincoln Project for their efforts to save our country. I agree. And this year, our country is at stake. I look forward to hearing your comments about Donald Trump somehow admitting the truth, perhaps accidentally, about January the 6th. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.